Hello and welcome to Nice and Blunt. My name is Adam Riancho, and it's time for another live stream. We're going to be drafting in the Chihuahua today, at least 3 different teams. Let's go. All right, so I think because of the time of year it is, I think a valuable thing to do at the top of these live streams is to take a look at the news feed on Underdog and recap all of the blurbs of the last 24 hours. We may not get everything in this segment, but I think getting some news in on these videos is definitely going to help us stay up to date overall. So first thing I want to bring to your attention is Cam Scadaboo. This report, he's impressing as a pass catcher in camp. I don't really care too much about the blurb. I have seen some clips from camp, and I do think Scadaboo looks pretty good at Giants camp. So I am a believer he's the guy you want in the Giants backfield. I'll keep it that way. I still think Tyrone Tracy, though, is relevant enough to cap his value and upside. I'm probably not dying to draft a Giants running back in general, but the guy I want is Scadaboo. Otherwise, let's scroll up. Let's find some relevant stuff. A lot of these are on defense, but some of them are on offense. Braylon Allen, nursing some knee soreness. I think he'll be fine, but perhaps a relevant thing to keep in mind. Maybe he's not as valuable as I might have thought. Luther Burden starting to participate in team drills. He's not really practiced up to this point in OTAs, and that's really positive. He only recently signed that contract. But let's keep going. Looks like Wandale and Alec Pierce are back to practice today. Malik Neighbors did leave practice early, appears to have injured his shoulder while blocking on a run play. So we will see how long that takes. He walked off the field under his own power. That's good, but maybe a tiebreaker, a reason to draft Nico Collins instead of him. But let's keep going. Let's stick to offense. Looks like Trey Harris had a good practice on Monday. That's nice. Austin Hooper returning to that tight end core in New England. A player not to forget, probably irrelevant in fantasy, but might be a bit more of a headache in that passing game than we factor in. Marshawn Lloyd may have non-contact injury. That's not good. That's terrible news. Marshawn Lloyd needs the reps. He did not really get any time with the team last season. So that's really bad for Marshawn Lloyd. I got a lot of Marshawn Lloyd shares this season. That's not good for me. Hollywood Brown exits Tuesday's practice, appears to sustain a right lower leg injury. That's terrible. Hollywood Brown has been one of the most consistently injured players the last several years. That is not good for Hollywood Brown. Positive news, though, for Xavier Worthy, maybe Travis Kelce even, and Rashee Rice perhaps once he comes back. But Travion, pass catching skills on display. I think Travion is going to crush this season. Really excited about him overtaking Ramondre Stevenson. Dontavian Wicks dealing with a calf injury, but not really relevant in fantasy. Michael Pittman sustains a groin injury during Tuesday's practice. That's not good. So Josh Downs gets some upside with no Michael Pittman. And I think Tyler Warren also benefits from this as well. So let's keep going. It looks like Zach Moss working on his conditioning. A confirmation that Hollywood injured the ankle on Tuesday, so not going to be drafting Hollywood for some time. The injury for Malik Neighbors, though, was downplayed, so maybe not the end of the world, but perhaps a reason to draft Nico Collins above him. And then Xavier Worthy also exits practice on Tuesday, banged his head. He'll probably be back in a week or so. So not going to panic on that. Debo moving all around the formation. We expect him to be used as a running back a lot, so not a reason to feel confident about Brian Robinson. And then Jalen Lane, rookie for the Commanders, getting some first team work. I'm not going to read too much into that, but if there is a 18th round stacking option for Jaden Daniels, I think Jalen Lane might be the most appealing in my opinion. But looks like Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, a guy I'm really excited about in this running back room, has a strong start to camp. We'll see if that persists. I'm not going to overreact to just one report, but we'll see what happens. Ladd McConkey sitting out of practice, but should be fine. Eckler may return kicks this season. That's not encouraging. He's like 33 years old. I don't really want to see that happen for Austin Eckler. Isaiah Likely, though, this is probably the most important news. does leave practice on a cart. It's kind of not that big of a deal. Like being carted off these days in practice is not always like the end of the world, but does suffer an ankle slash foot injury, and who knows how much time he'll miss. Maybe Mark Andrews is safer than we might expect. So that's going to be interesting. He will be out for a few weeks. This report confirms that. And then I didn't see that much else above this. Looks like Hampton's going to play in the Hall of Fame game, but Najee Harris has no timetable to return. That game is 2 days from now. I'm excited as a Charger fan. And then is there anything else I noticed? I don't think so. I think most of these are on defense, but looks like Demario Douglas displaying consistency in camp. I will mention, other than Stephon Diggs, I think the best stacking option for Drake May at receiver is Demario Douglas. I'm going to be passing on Kyle Williams until we get any news he's running with the ones. At this point in time, it actually looks like Kayshon Boutte might be ahead of Kyle Williams on the depth chart. It's still July. We'll see how that changes in August. But I really don't think there's any other news that's really relevant. Devon Achane, early standout at training camp. That's expected, so that's nothing to worry about there. Tank Bigsby is rotating in with Travis Etienne. Bigsby might actually be the guy you want in Jacksonville. I'm in the Bashal Tutin camp, but I think I'd much rather draft Bigsby than draft Etienne if I'm wrong about Bashal Tutin. So that's a player to keep in mind, and that is the top of the news feed. So with that in mind, let's get into some drafts today. We're going to be hopping into the $4 Chihuahua and do at least 3 of those. Let's get it going. If you want to join with me, you're going to enter into the 20-second pick clock here. The advance rates aren't like insane, but I have seen much worse than 1 out of 9, 1 out of 6 in the fantasy playoffs. A 217-seat final will get you $100, and you can max this out at 25 entries. I think I'm only going to do like 8 or 10 of these. So if I do make the final, I will make a solid return. Let's hope that works out for you, boy. But if we do finish top 20, we'll take home $1,000. In the top 5, $8,000. Top 3 is $10K. Second is $20K. And first place is $30,000 off a $4 entry. So that's it for the recap. Let's hop in. If you want to join with me, hit that button right now, and I will join in 3, 2, 1. Based on the delay, we should be synced up. Where there are 9 spots left. If you want to join this draft with me, it is filling kind of quickly. We're down to 3 spots. It is full. So if that's what you wanted, I hope it worked out for you. Good luck. We get pick 3, not bad. And I might go a little off the page here. I might mix it up in this draft, given I have pick 3. I'm probably not going to get Bijan. And I kind of feel like you can pick a bunch of different players at that point at pick 3. So we'll see what happens. Let's get this set up, though. There we go. And then that's going to be the main setup for this video. Let's bring that down. Okay. So this thing will be drafting soon. We got 10 more seconds before the first pick. I'll make my pick, and then I noticed some questions in the chat. I'll get to the chat right after I make my first pick. But it looks like Albie is in here with us. Albie with the black badge. Is the badge new, Albie? I feel like that is a new acquisition for you. But I'm in here at pick 3. King of QC in at the 6th spot. There you are. Yes, King of QC. And then I have no idea if Keen Allen is just drafting a shit ton like I am. But I've been in a lot of drafts with Keen Allen over the last several days. I whether it's on the live stream or not, I think it's mostly off the live stream. I think it's just a coincidence. But here at pick 3, we could go in just about any direction. Let's go Jahmyr Gibbs. I think I prefer elite running back most of the time. And if you watch the last live stream, Jahmyr Gibbs was one of the only running backs in the first 2 rounds I did not draft in those 4 teams. So let's just get the guy I missed out on, and let's take Jahmyr Gibbs. I think in this decision, you can really go in any direction. I don't think it really matters who you're taking. They're all good picks at this point. I could even justify Christian McCaffrey at that pick. I could justify Puka Nakua at that pick. I think that's the cutoff point. I think outside the top 8, there's no real argument to put those guys in the top 3. But let me get to the chat. Let me take a peek. Albie says, no, you asked a few months ago when it was, but it's season now. Okay, I had a feeling it was somewhat recent, but I'm forgetting the first time I noticed. Let's bring these comments down here a little bit, not block the board. And then Jamie says, bonne soirée, welcome in, welcome in. Albie, I like these East Coast friendly streams. Yeah, happy to mix it up, because if you're on the East Coast and I start live streaming at like 9 p.m., I'm sure not as ideal. If you want to join and draft with me, you might be a little tired. But Bobby J is asking, is Uber reliable enough to make some money on the side in between jobs? Just need some extra. DoorDash has failed me. Yeah, I would say Uber is fine. I mean, I think where you live is really dependent on some of your success. Like, are you near downtown in a populated city? You're probably gonna have a lot more success than someone who lives on like the outskirts of town, you know, in the suburbs where everyone already has a car. So that's something to keep in mind with Uber that I've learned over time. But in terms of just like a reliable floor, it is not as tip driven as some of the other gig work you can do. Like if you do DoorDash or even Uber Eats, like a lot of the time it's just so reliant on tips, it's not really worth it, I've found. But there's also some tips on Uber, but the base pay isn't like a terrible salary. You do have to pay all your expenses though, so make sure you keep all your receipts for tax time. That's really important. But otherwise, if all you're looking to make is like an extra $200-300 a week, investing like 10 to 14 hours, you know, sometimes it can be really slow, but sometimes you can make like $300 in like 10 hours, and that's not bad. That's not terrible. So I would recommend trying it, but sometimes the overhead is not worth it. Okay, we're going to be back on the clock, so let's show you who's at the top of ADP. If Taylor is there, I will go Taylor. We'll complete the triumvirate. No, we do not get Taylor. He gets sniped right there. So maybe I don't go with running back this time. Maybe we try and get a different team. And I released my wide receiver rankings just before I went live a couple hours ago. Let's go with the top of my rankings. Let's go with Devontae Adams at pick 22. Jamie, I agree with some of these tips on driving Uber. I think being strategic with when you decide to do it is more beneficial in terms of the pay scale. Weekends, at least in LA, that's the best time because the traffic is not as bad on weekends. Anyways, let's move off of Uber. That's probably not what you came here to see. But we're going to be back on the clock in just a couple seconds. We passed on those elite running backs, so not looking at one here. We could reach on Omarion Hampton, but I think that's kind of overkill. I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to go Jackson Smith and Jigba, my wide receiver 15 this season, and I trust him much more than Marvin Harrison. I trust him equally as Garrett Wilson, but I do have him ranked above Garrett Wilson. I think JSN is poised for success this season. The only downside of this roster is, once again, I've drafted 3 players with the same bye week. We have a week 8 bye with each of our first 3 round draft picks. That's never ideal. It's not the end of the world. I'll try and keep that in mind. Players with week 8 buys, especially at receiver, are not going to be getting the tiebreaker in a decision. But Shamrock is here. Yo, welcome in, Shamrock. Nice to see you. And King of QC does go Omarion Hampton. It seems like this is the official new price on the Chargers running back 1, especially with Najee Harris completely up in the air. Hampton looks even more valuable and will probably crush if Najee never gets a hold of consistent touches. So I'm really excited about Hampton, but I have a lot of him in the 4th round. I'm going to maybe avoid him in round 3. But in this tournament, actually, it's not a bad pick. It's not a bad pick at all because Hampton was already going this high as of yesterday when this tournament dropped earlier today. So this is the official price on Hampton in this tournament. If you want him, this is the spot to take him. So I don't hate it now that it's official. In Best Ball Mania, though, I don't think I would do that. There are some teams who got Hampton in the 5th round in BBM. Taking him round 3 might not be the move, but every now and then I can tolerate it. But the 4th round is officially underway, and at the 4:02, let's call it 4:20 time. Let's take a smoke break. I'll be back in 8 seconds. Always nice. Always nice. I'm happy the weed is back as part of the live streams. If you couldn't tell, I missed it. But Bobby J saying pants down Micah Parsons. He'll get paid. That's just what Jerry Jones does. He waits till the last second. He'll get paid though. Albie was waiting to join us, of course. Maybe as a tradition, we'll draft at the we'll take a rip at the 2nd pick of the 4th round. How about that? Franco drafts the best teams after ripping the pen. That's my logic. You at the very least, if it doesn't improve your draft strategy, it's going to make you enjoy the experience more. And you also have to get in some practice that's going to mimic what your actual draft day experience is going to be like. Nobody drafts sober at the official draft party. Nobody does that. So let's get some practice reps in. And I'm not a drinker. I'm a smoker. I'm going to go Jalen Hurts, though, here at QB. Jalen Hurts quickly moving up my most drafted player board. I've been starting to take him a lot more as he's moved into clearly round 4. But we have someone that wants to say hi. Let's give her the microphone real quick. Hello. Hello. Hi. Nope, we don't need that. She is in a mood. She's hungry though. It's a fair time. She has legitimate concerns here. I will feed her after this next pick. I almost forgot. But that's the thing with this cat. You can never forget. She will remind you 10 minutes after she's supposed to get the food. You can hear it in her voice. She's not happy. Anyways, we have Jalen Hurts. We'll probably just take Devontae Smith, given the stack. We'll go anchor running back with Gibbs, and then see if there's a good value in the next round. But can't go Travis Hunter here. He has a week 8 bye. Can't go James Conner either. I'm tempted to go Chuba Hubbard in all honesty, but I'd rather have the stack in a tournament like this. The advance rates are slim. Let's give us some correlation here. Let's make sure that's on this team. When we have Jalen Hurts, it's good to go Devontae Smith. Whoops, almost forgot. Almost left y'all hanging. There we go. Okay, the cat is fed. The cat got her food. Yeah, I gotta answer the bell when the princess calls. Sadly, I know exactly who you mean. All right, so what's going on this board? What's happening? Albie says Henderson keeps rising up the board. He goes pick 57 here. I think that's appropriate. I don't see him as a big difference in terms of a pick than Kenneth Walker, Chuba Hubbard, or Alvin Kamara. I think they're all in basically the same tier. And, he has the most upside. If he overtakes Ramondre, he could be the last workhorse you can draft. Like, I expect everybody else to kind of be splitting touches a little bit in their respective offenses. I'm glad I got a shit ton of him in the 6th. If his new price is the 5th, I'll still take him there. But really happy. I'm not going to feel forced to chase him up the board, knowing I have Travion at like, I want to say 18%. I'm pretty sure it's like 18%. Let me check. Yeah, here's my exposure list. And I do have Travion Henderson as my second most drafted running back at 18.5%. I've drafted 189 teams. I've taken him 35 times. My second highest investment at the running back position. So I love Travion Henderson. Good luck, Jamie. I'll see you later. Albie's at 29%. Like to see it, man. How many total drafts have you done? I'm curious. Mixon kind of free falling at this point. We'll leave Mixon alone. But it is kind of tempting to get in at this price. However, the teams after me have 3 running backs and 2 running backs. I'm not convinced all 3 running backs are coming off the board in the next 4 picks. So I will instead grab my favorite receiver here, and I will take Jacoby Myers. God damn it. You'd think if I take him this much, I would fucking pay attention to his freaking bye week. God effing damn it. I took another week 8 bye on this fucking team. Well, my argument for doing this is that it's such a bad decision that nobody tries to pair up these week 8 buys. And now I have a more unique team because other people that have the same start as I do see the week 8 buy and are like, no, I can't take him. So we're going to have a more unique roster by just loading up on all the bye weeks. That's the galaxy brain. That's the I know that you know that I know that you know type of thinking that's going to work out. Motherfucker. Jaden Reed off the board. So, yeah, running back is completely up for grabs here. I'm not dying to have a Gibbs team with Montgomery, and I'm actually really afraid of drafting Mixon at this point. So I'm going to go with Pacheco. I'm going to leave Mixon alone. I think he's going to continue to free fall, and I'm just going to see where he goes in this draft more so than decide his fate. But I do think taking a running back there was an obvious decision. There were 3 at the top of ADP. We only had Gibbs. And we're going around a long turn with a massive cliff at the position about to hit. So this is my subscriber league backfield last year. Last year I drafted Gibbs and Pacheco all for under $50 each. I think I got Pacheco for 44, Gibbs for 46. And although Pacheco did go down, I felt extremely confident this time last season with those 2 as my starters. So let's hope for the best with Pacheco. If it does work out, I think he is one of the best bets in round 7. I think he has some of the highest upside remaining at the running back position if he retains that job as the RB1 in Kansas City. But it has been interesting to see the camp reports. It looks like Pacheco is doing well, but Brashard Smith is getting a lot of looks in the passing game. He's lining up at receiver, so Pacheco might be splitting that job with him a lot this year. And then Kareem Hunt and Elijah Mitchell are also mixing in, but I think in an ideal world, the rotation is like a 65% workload for Pacheco and then like 30% for Brashard Smith. I think ideally, those are the only two guys getting touches in this backfield. We'll see if Kareem Hunt and Elijah Mitchell, though, spoil my hopes. Okay, so Hurts with Devontae Smith. We have Devontae Adams and JSN and Jacoby Myers. And we just have to avoid our kryptonite and stop drafting week 8 by wide receivers. As long as I have other players to mix in that spot, I'll be okay. But if there's one thing I'm not going to go crazy over and just like continue to neglect and like not fix, if there's one problem I have, I'm going to refuse to fix. It's my lack of care for bye weeks. Like only in hindsight do I care. I never care before the pick is made. I'm just trying to get the best player on the team. Bo Nix snipage. Rough. You got Sutton at the 101, at the 501, I should say, at the 4-5 turn. Not able to pair him with Bo Nix. That team with Bo Nix is really good at receiver at the top with Brian Thomas, Drake London. They also have DJ Moore, but they went heavy running back with Kyron Williams, Trayvon Henderson, Caleb Johnson, Brian Robinson Jr. Love the first 2 picks at running back. Not super high on the second 2 picks at running back. All right. Michael Pittman just had a groin injury today, so I'm not focused on Pittman here. I know exactly who I want, and he does get sniped. A good pick by Mover and Shaker 21. I do think Jaden Higgins is the right pick here, but I do really like Jaylen Warren. I'm starting to come around that he is a good value here, and I think at worst, he's like maybe 3 running backs worse than Caleb Johnson. I don't think Caleb Johnson is going to be overwhelmingly better than Jaylen Warren. I think Warren's role is really on lock in this offense, and the rookie is going to have an uphill battle. I could see Aaron Rodgers, like, just play favorites and trust the veteran Warren and keep him on the field for a much higher snap share. So as talented as Caleb Johnson is, I think the landing spot is a reason not to trust him. Meanwhile, I think that is just the benefit of Jaylen Warren, the player who is starting camp as the RB1 in this backfield. Who knows how long it's going to take for that to flip. So the running back core, I feel decent about through 8 rounds. We have Jahmyr Gibbs, Isaiah Pacheco, Jaylen Warren, and we're back on the clock. Michael Pittman has fallen back around, but I think I'm going to go Trey Harris. I'm really tempted to go with Cooper Kupp. Actually, no. Actually, I'm going to go Travis Kelce. The injury to Hollywood Brown, I think, locks in Kelce a little bit more. I'm not going to be someone reaching on Travis Kelce, but I think after ADP, as long as it's the 9th or 10th round, I am comfortable drafting Kelce this year because it's crazy just how like far the tight end market drops off after George Kittle. Like we're getting tight end 3 by pick 41, the first 2 in the top 30, and then Kelce's going as tight end 6, and I don't think he's going to be worse than tight end 8 given his target share. I think he might bounce back actually. I'm kind of optimistic about him all of a sudden. But the fact that Hollywood got hurt, the fact that Rashee Rice is going to get suspended, I'm going to trust the volume to go to Travis Kelce. So I think he's a fine pick there. But I also think Andrews and Ingram are valuable picks where they go. I think in general, every tight end has like a good ADP. Like I feel good drafting them wherever they go, except for Brock Bowers. Like just because of the fact they're also cheap, I don't like taking tight end in round 2 if I can avoid it. sometimes the weed does have its drawbacks, and I do forget to show you the board for the rest of round 9. Anyways, running back really fading. Only Judkins goes off after our Kelsey pick. There was a bit of a run on quarterback, though. Justin Fields, Dak Prescott, Drake May, Caleb Williams, and Jared Goff. And then Cooper Kupp fell to 107. Meanwhile, Michael Pittman, with the groin injury news, has fallen to pick 109. That is worth noting. Where did Josh Downs go in this draft? Josh Downs was taken 86. So Downs was not more expensive in this draft. It was just Michael Pittman that fell off significantly. And if he's going to be there at the top of ADP, I do know who I'm going to draft, but I know some of y'all are with me in this draft, so I'm going to keep my mouth shut. I'm going to wait till I'm on the clock. But I think if you're paying attention, you know who I am interested in. Scattaboo goes off 114. Tyrone Tracy's still on the board, so he's falling. And I'm hoping in the next 2 picks, Tracy is taken. But unfortunately, King of QC is paying attention, does make a wise decision, goes Tyler Warren. Tyler Warren was not going to be available if he made it to me at 118. I promise you that. So good pick, King of QC. Good selection there with Tyler Warren, but Herbert off the board. So quarterback is drying up. I'm happy to have Hurts on the squad. Question is, do I really want Tyrone Tracy at this point? I don't think I do. I think I'd rather grab my 5th receiver, given I kind of punted that position. And Shaheed does not have a week 8 bye, so I'm learning. We're getting ahead of our mistakes. We'll take Shaheed 10 spots past ADP. I need a receiver on this team for sure. And who knows, maybe Charbonnet is still there at the other side of this turn. Love goes off the board. Albie does not want me to take Kraft or Love. Says thank you. He doubles up on the stack there. I was not considering that at all. But at pick 123, I will take a minor discount on Zach Charbonnet. We're already invested into the Seattle offense with JSN. And Charbonnet, when active, is an elite option. But at running back, I don't give a shit about the week 8 bye. It's really just receiver that I'm kind of worried about it, because 3 of our top 4 guys do have a week 8 bye. But with Shaheed now, I don't give a shit. With Shaheed, we'll definitely draft at least one more that does not have that week 8 bye. But Rashid, one of the last receivers I think you can somewhat expect a decent target share out of, but in general, this is the trend of every draft. Once we hit this round 11 break, the second half, there's very little value at wide receiver to be available. So Quentin Johnston goes 127. That's a bit of a reach, but I think it's justified. He was way better than any other wide receiver the rest of the way. And I don't think he's much worse than Trey Harris. I've kind of felt like the 2 of them should have been going close to each other this whole time. I'm more in the Trey Harris camp. I've definitely drafted more of Trey Harris, but I think Quentin Johnston's a fine pick. Even in the top 130, he usually goes in the like 135 to 145 range. But at 127, I don't hate the pick if you need receiver. This team really did. They had Tyreek Hill, Rashee Rice, Ayuk, and Quentin Johnston. Yeah, this team is desperate for receiver. But a little shocked they didn't go Luther Burden. That's kind of interesting. Red On, or Read On, however you pronounce that, is a fan of QJ. King of Dropsville. Hard to forget booing him at those Charger games last year. I remember losing my voice booing Quentin Johnston. But quarterback's starting to dry up. I have some late round stacking options, though. I've got Geno Smith available with Jacoby. I even have Tyler Shuck available with Shaheed. But then I also have Sam Darnold available. I also have Stafford available. I don't feel desperate to get my quarterback 2 at this turn. I think I'm going to give it one more pass and ignore quarterback with these next 2 picks. Because they're kind of all on the board still. So we'll gamble with that. And at the top of ADP, we have Hollywood Brown falling. I'm going to ignore Hollywood and test my luck there. I kind of need receiver, though. I'm going to draft Cedric Tillman. I kind of don't really care who I get at tight end with the next pick. And I don't think all 3 of them are coming off the board. Granted, likely did just get hurt, so maybe that thins out the position a little bit. But I never feel like I'm behind the 8 ball at tight end. I feel like I can always risk it. If there's no stack, then it's not the end of the world. But I'm realizing there is a stack available. I almost forgot I have Jalen Hurts, so I probably should have taken Dallas Goedert there. But Josh Palmer off the board. Will Wobbledini grab both tight ends? He already has David Njoku. I don't think so. Goes Michael Penix. Sweet. So probably did not take these players in the right order. I probably should have just taken Goddard with the previous pick. I forgot he was a stacking option, and that was a risk that did pan out pretty well. But here's the team so far. At quarterback, we have Jalen Hurts rolling with Jahmyr Gibbs, Isaiah Pacheco, Jalen Warren, and Zach Charbonnet in the running back core. I actually think for the value, this is a really good room. I think in round 8 to get the RB2 with the upside of Isaiah Pacheco, and at the moment, a legit shot to have the RB1 in Pittsburgh drafting Jalen Warren in the 9th round. I feel pretty good about the depth, and then Charbonnet in round 11 feels really nice. The upside of Charbonnet to kind of, make you dream about the upside here. When Charbonnet was active in 6 starts last season when Kenneth Walker was injured, Charbonnet averaged over 17 fantasy points per game. He was in the top 5 in terms of production in that stretch. So I'm really liking our running back room. And then at receiver, I think we're still okay. We have Devontae Adams, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. Devontae Smith and Jacoby Myers with Rashid Shaheed and Cedric Tillman. Some upside with these backups. With Shaheed and Tillman, I think there is a world where we get some legitimate 20-point games out of our bench. So this team is coming together nicely, I think. I think drafting that elite quarterback really gives me a lot of flexibility and room for error because, like I said, we had the luxury of passing on quarterback at that turn. Grabbing Tillman with the Hollywood Brown injury that just happened is kind of inspiring. Definitely an interesting investment. And then we got lucky with Goddard. But if I had to take quarterback there, then I wouldn't feel as good about my receiver room as I do right now. Because even though Legette's on the board, it's really ugly at receiver. Legette is falling, though. He's currently fallen 16 picks, but this team with 5 receivers, I think, will snipe me on Legette. So not planning for that. Both teams behind me, though, have quarterback 2 on the roster, Baker and Penix, and then Purdy and Love. I still have a lot of options at quarterback, and I'm gonna gamble here. I'm gonna call the bluff that these teams even draft a quarterback, and I think Stafford will still be at the top of ADP for me when I get back. But I got to show you guys the ADP here. Stafford is there. Leggett was also there, and we got Leggett at 166. Leggett's ADP is 149, so a round and a half discount on Xavier Leggett. As wide receiver 7, that feels pretty good. But then there's also a price drop on Jalen Wright. No, he goes. That's probably going to help me out a little bit. I should probably take quarterback here. And it's tempting to go with Darnold to pair up with JSN and Charbonnet, but instead I'm going to go Matt Stafford. We get a discount on Stafford. And both players at the top of ADP with our last pick are on the roster. So I lucked out there on the turn. We did not get sniped at quarterback. And sometimes it pays to punt the position. Getting a round 15 Stafford feels pretty nice. I know he's missing some time with like that soreness in his elbow, I believe. I think it's elbow soreness. What is the blurb on Stafford? On Monday, he's not returning to practice. Here, let's pull it up so everyone knows. Rams coach Sean McVay said Saturday that Stafford is not going to return to practice Monday and is considered week to week. Stafford has been dealing with a sore back since the start of training camp, but he was previously expected to take part in the Rams' first padded practice of training camp Monday. It appears that will no longer be the case, as McVay stated that the team will take it a week at a time with Stafford. Though the head coach also indicated that the quarterback did not suffer a setback, the goal is still to have Stafford ready to play week one, while Garoppolo is expected to work with the first-team offense in camp until Stafford is ready to participate. I'm not going to overreact to this. I'm not going to worry about it. He's missed some time in camp, like every season he's been with the Rams pretty much. And he's one of the oldest players in the league. He's a veteran. I'm not worried about Stafford. He's a gamer, and he knows the system. I think he has good enough chemistry with Adams already. Not going to worry about it. The only thing it maybe impacts is the development of Terrence Ferguson. That's some chemistry I wish was getting fine-tuned at the moment. That is not. And then maybe Tutu Atwell has an advantage over Jordan Whittington if Stafford's not going to be at practice for a week or so. But I'm not going to worry. I think Stafford is fine. And with the upside in the passing game, with Adams coming in, I will happily buy the dip on Stafford if I have a LA Ram to stack up. I'm not going to force the issue with Stafford. He has no rushing upside, and I think quarterback is still valuable at this point. So don't force it if you don't have to. But if he falls around like he did here, go ahead and take Stafford. I'm not going to worry about the injury risk. He'll stay on the field. I trust him. He's a really tough guy. His offensive line, though, that I'm worried about. His offensive line rarely stays healthy. That's where he needs some help. But I think at tight end with Kelsey and Goddard, I could get away with it. I think at receiver with Leggett as my number 7, I'm not going to feel desperate for a 9th receiver. I think if we get 8, even that isn't like the most critical thing in the world. We definitely need a 5th running back, so that's going to take up 1 pick. I need another receiver, I think. But I think I'm going to call it done at quarterback. I mean, at tight end. I'm going to call it done at tight end. I'm going to take Sam Darnold to stack up with Charbonnet and JSN. Going to draft a 3rd quarterback here. I'm not totally convinced that Stafford is like going to contribute in my roster like crazy. And for some reason, Jalen Hurts has gotten injured and missed time in the fantasy playoffs like 2 of the last 3 seasons. Not sure why, but for some reason he just often gets hurt at the end of the year. So let's just avoid some of that risk, even though Stafford and Darnold had the same bye. Hurts has a different one, so it doesn't matter. And then with these last 2 picks, it would be tempting to take Elijah Arroyo, but he's already been drafted. Arroyo really moved up the board quickly. Where does he go in this draft? He goes pick 179, something like that. But here I am back on the clock at the top of ADP. There is Keenan Allen there. I kind of want to take Keenan Allen. And I will. I was thinking maybe I go Torrey Horton or Marquez Valdez-Scantling with my last pick, stack up someone with Darnold. But I think Keenan has the potential to vault up the draft board by like 80 picks by the end of the month. Not this month, like a month from now. If he, in 2 weeks, if he signs with Arizona, like he's clearly the number 2 target there. And I think that would be the perfect spot for him in terms of like expected target share. That's ideal. Anywhere else, I'm kind of worried what his volume is going to look like. But assuming he does not retire, I think Keenan will be a much better pick than a round 17 option. That is the risk, though. He may not sign with anyone, but he's talked with too many teams. He was too good last year. I don't think he's hanging it up. I think he's going to play this season. But it's not August yet. Give it a couple more weeks. Then Keenan should be on a team by then. But here's the team. We have Kelsey and Goddard at tight end. Kind of more of a floor play at that position. Goddard has some upside if one of the receivers goes down, but he's also stacked up with Jalen Hurts, so a good pick. And one of the last like starting options I feel comfortable with, so I'm willing to stop with Kelsey and Goddard. My quarterback room is really strong. We have Jalen Hurts. That's obviously ideal. And then Stafford stacked up with Devontae Adams and Sam Darnold stacked up with JSN. We're in good shape at quarterback, but running back is locked in for this last pick. We have Jahmyr Gibbs as the anchor, Pacheco and Jaylen Warren with some hopeful optimism that they're the workhorses in their offenses. But even if it's a split backfield, I think they have a shot to dominate the touchdowns and be the most valuable pieces there. And then Zach Charbonnet for just the elite upside. If Walker ever goes down, that's been a trend that is repeated pretty often the last 2 seasons. And then at receiver, even though we waited until round 3 to take our first guy. Oh no, actually, no, we didn't. We took Adams in round 2 and then JSN round 3. So that'll be a less common combination. 2 players that often go in round 3. Not as many teams have both Adams and JSN on their team, but I also have Devontae Smith, Jacoby Myers, Rashid Shaheed, Cedric Tillman, Xavier Legette, and Keenan Allen. I feel pretty good at receiver with that combination of 8. But with the last pick, we're not going to take Marshawn Lloyd. I got way too much Lloyd already. Albie says he liked his team until ETN. Yeah, I'm worried about ETN, man. Think he's going too high. That Jags backfield is too crowded to feel super confident about any one player. But for the price, it would pay a lot more to be most committed to Tank Bigsby. Wanted McLeod with your last pick. Take him at round 17. It's not the end of the world, but yeah, you took him a little too high. All right, here's the top of the board. The players we're considering. We're locked into running back. We only have 4 of them, and it's the final round of the draft. I'm going to go with Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, my pick to be a dark horse candidate in Washington. I don't trust Brian Robinson at all. Eckler's 32. Now he's supposedly going to be running back kick returns. And I think the 7th rounder has some opportunity in front of him. I think he can overtake Brian Robinson if B-Rob fumbles or does go down like he did last year. I think the backups in Washington actually might have more value than the starter. So that's our last running back, praying it works out, but I think it's fine. With Gibbs as the RB1, I think the floor of Warren and the upside of Pacheco are good enough. at running back. So I like the team. Let's take a peek at Albie and QC's roster real quick. Albie was in at pick 1. What does he go with in terms of the round by round selection? Let me get this in order. Okay, so you go Jamar Chase, Josh Jacobs, Chase Brown at the 101 with J-Mo, Cortland Sutton, Ricky Pearsall, Matthew Golden, and Brock Purdy at quarterback. Travis Etienne, you said you didn't like that pick. Personally, I'm not a big fan of it either, but I think you needed some running back depth, so I don't hate it. Then Tucker Kraft, Jordan Love paired with Matthew Golden. That's not bad at all. Garendo with Brock Purdy. I like that. Then you have Josh Palmer, Nick Chubb. At this point, Nick Chubb is looking like a good pick, so I think that's decent. Mike Gesicki as well on this team with Darius Slayton, Ray McLeod, and then I don't know who you took in round 18, but if I had to guess, it's a tight end. I think most likely that's what it is. I feel like you have enough at receiver, enough at running back. Maybe it was a running back. It was either a running back or tight end. I don't know. And then, you go Dart as a flyer. I think the team is good. I don't know if you need Dart, though. I have no idea how many starts we're going to get from Dart. He only has, like, fantasy playoff upside, because he'll probably be the starter at the end of the season. But it may be, like, week 12, and he still doesn't get any starts, you know? That's why I'm only concerned with Dart. But not bad. Not bad. And then King of QC was in at pick 6 with us. Let's take a look at his roster. Quarterback, Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, and Drake May. Almost forgot Drake May. Running back, Saquon, Hampton, Jordan Mason, Bashal Tootin, Braylon Allen. And then at wide receiver, you have Lad McConkey, Tet McMillan, Zay Flowers, Stephon Diggs, Shakir, Kyle Williams, and Jalen Noel. And then at tight end, Tyler Warren, Hunter Henry, and Dalton Schultz. I think the team is pretty good, man. You got some good stacking options with Drake May. Personally, I prefer Demario Douglas over Kyle Williams. I'm actually kind of worried about Kyle Williams so far with all the camp reports early in the offseason, but it's still July technically. He might be okay. I think he's going overpriced, however. Not a fan of Kyle Williams' ADP so far, but the receiving core is not bad. The running back room is pretty strong at the top with Saquon and Hampton. And then quarterback, I think, works out even though you kind of waited a while. Tyler Warren, I think, is good, but I don't know if you need Dalton Schultz. I think I might have preferred another wide receiver instead of Dalton Schultz because you don't have CJ Stroud. It's a really crowded offense, and I just think it's a little overkill. With Tyler Warren, Hunter Henry, I think it can work without Dalton Schultz. So that's my only critique there, the last pick at tight end. Let's hop into another draft, though. We mentioned we would be doing several of these, so let's get in to another Chihuahua. And if you want to draft with me, I hope you're ready. I'll give you a few seconds. Click the button in 3, 2, 1. Go ahead and click the button if you want to draft with me. And then I will click the button in 3, 2, 1. And it should be synced up. But I was the last person in this lobby. I was the last guy. So unless you clicked it before I did, we are in different drafts. But I do see Fantasy Dog in here with me. And I think that's at least somebody I recognize. Albie says he'll be back for the third draft. I get pick 10 on this one. Pick 10 has been good to me. I kind of prefer being on this side of the board than the early part of the board. But in general, never going to complain. I think you can make it work with every pick. You just need good players to fall to you. If you can get good price discounts, that's usually a better path for success than just having a specific pick. But there are some picks I like better than others. And 10, I would say, is in like my top 5. I like pick 11. I like pick 2. I like pick 6. I like pick 10. And then I actually don't hate pick 12. I would say that's my top five. So a running back, but we see A Chain go off the board at 4. So this team, Infinite Tsukuyomi, is going to have a very unique start. Usually A Chain is never paired up with some of the players that are going to go at the end of round 2. So probably setting up a Tyreek Hill stack if I had to guess. We'll see how that works out for him, but the team at 7 gets CD Lamb. I think that's a real big value. Good for team 7. But in all honesty, I'm not a big hater on Team 4's strategy. I think if they do stack him up with Tyreek Hill, that's a bit less common. It's not the worst thing in the world, but you can also get the Tyreek Hill A-Chain stack at the back half of the draft. And so it's going to be maybe less unique than... It's probably not the only team that goes that way, but I do get Puka to fall to me at pick 10, so I'm happy to take Puka. I'm tempted to rank Puka as wide receiver 2 overall this season. So to get him fifth off the board as my wide receiver 4, I'll happily take that. I do think Puka is more valuable than Devon A-Chain and Christian McCaffrey. So happy to get Puka at pick 10. But let's show you the other players at the top of ADP. We do see a fall on Malik Neighbors. That's kind of expected given his injury. But not a reason to panic. I'm going to take the unique combo here, and I don't think Neighbors should be falling that dramatically. I still think he's in the same tier as Amon-Ra and Brian Thomas, and his ADP is 9th overall. There's not going to be that many teams with Puka and Neighbors. It's not going to be impossible, but at pick 15, I'll just take Malik Neighbors. So through the first 2 rounds, I am loaded at wide receiver. That team goes Drake London, A.J. Brown above Neighbors. I guess with the news today, I can kind of understand it. I wouldn't really understand also passing on Amon-Ra and Brian Thomas, though, to grab Drake London and A.J. Brown. That's just trying to be unique with 2 round 2 players, but passing up like more proven upside in production from St. Brown and BTJ. So team 12, we tip our cap to them, say thank you, and then also a thank you to team 11 going Derrick Henry above Malik Neighbors. I feel really good about this start at wide receiver, but a lot of interesting choices in this lobby. That team with A-Chain goes Bowers. Tyreek Hill was off the board already, so I'm sure they were maybe a little upset by it, but still, Bowers, a pretty decent consolation prize. I'd much rather have Brock Bowers than Marvin Harrison. I'm not really in love with that pick at number 20 going Marvin Harrison, but I'm a Harrison hater this year. However, I will admit, if he does get Trey McBride, which I expect him to get him here at 29 now, then I don't think I hate it that much. I think it's maybe a little bit more compelling to have both Cardinals, but I really wish you got Marvin Harrison in the 4th round, not the 3rd. This team might pass, though. We'll see what this team is going to do. They go Josh Jacobs. Yeah, passing on McBride. Kind of interesting. We see Lamar and Josh Allen in the top 28. Worthy at pick 30. The fuck is going on? Adams off the board. Breece Hall off the board. I think I'm too strong at receiver to like force the issue with JSN. I'm gonna go Omarion Hampton because if I don't go running back here, I think Spartan Wave at pick 12 is gonna double tap Hampton and Kyron, and I don't think I'm gonna get a good value at running back. I'd have to be reaching on James Cook, which is not my preferred strategy. So I'm just gonna take Hampton here. Sorry, I keep forgetting to show you guys the top of ADP. But this is what I'm looking at. Terry, Rashee Rice, Mike Evans. Terry goes. I got Puka and Neighbors. Like, do I really need a pick at receiver when I kind of don't feel good about any of them? Let's just grab an elite tight end. Give me the onesie position. Kittle as the difference maker. So I'm going to trust that Puka Neighbors is an elite start and not feel compelled to overwhelm the receiver value when I don't think it's that appealing. Like, Evans is a fine pick there, but I think Cortland Sutton is just as valuable going at the end of this round. I also have guys like Jamison Williams and Devontae Smith in the same tier. I also have Tet McMillan in the same tier, and while I wouldn't expect any of them to fall back to me, I think George Kittle's more valuable than all of them. I think Kittle could easily outscore every single one of them. Like, I trust all those receivers to probably give me 1,000 yards. I think Kittle could give me 1,200, and I think Kittle could also have the most touchdowns of this group, maybe with the exception of Mike Evans. I'd probably only bet on Evans to outscore Kittle in the touchdown department. Otherwise, I don't feel confident that touchdowns are going to overwhelm any other player like they will with George Kittle. But Shamrock is asking my favorite sleeper quarterback. It's definitely Justin Herbert, but let me pull up the quarterback market real quick. Let's go through it. In order to qualify as a sleeper, they probably have to at least be going past pick 100. So we're going to rule out everyone up until Brock Purdy, Justin Fields, and let's start with Dak Prescott, officially like the first pick basically of the 9th round. I think Caleb Williams is a very good value there. He's going as quarterback 13, so technically a sleeper. I think Drake May is also a really good sleeper candidate. I think both of them are probably going to finish top 11 or top 10. So I like both of them. I also think Justin Herbert at QB 17 is drafted at his floor. I think he's a good value. But in terms of like, real big discounts outside the top 18 at the position, I do like Trevor Lawrence. I think he has some high upside with Liam Cohen OC this year. I also like Michael Penix. I think he has some massive sleeper value. I think Bryce Young is a decent value. I think you're taking him at his floor as QB 23. Same goes with Stafford and Geno Smith. And because Geno Smith is the cheapest of them all, Geno Smith does qualify as probably my number one sleeper candidate at the quarterback position. I think Geno's really, really solid, and I don't see a big difference between quarterback 18 and 26 in the first place. So just being at the bottom of that tier in the rankings does give him the advantage, in my opinion. But it's round 5 and might be valuable to get back to receiver. But even though I like Zay Flowers, I want to get in at running back. We've seen what's happened at that position lately, and I will take TreVeyon Henderson. Let's go double rookie running back with Omarion Hampton and TreVeyon Henderson, knowing that the team at the turn is in play to double tap that position with only one running back up until this point. Flowers does go to I thought that said Grad Illusion. It's Gladius Lion. Bit of a tongue twister. The L. Maybe I'm dyslexic, but I did not see the L at first. Okay, now I think it's probably worth it to dip back in at receiver with Puka Neighbors and the position drying up. Let's just get ahead of it. Um, Tempted to go with Romadunze, but we have George Kittle and Juwan Jennings is like the healthiest guy at training camp, and I don't think his holdout is really going to miss any playing time. So let's go Juwan Jennings. I think he is a good pick here in the 6th round. I do like him at this value. But let's pull up the board once again. Let's show you how it's shaken out. So at the turn, after we took Travion Henderson, we saw Zay Flowers, R.J. Harvey. That team follows it up with Ricky Pearsall and Joe Burrow to the team at 11. Interesting to see Pearsall at pick 61 above Juwan Jennings. That's kind of interesting. But it is good for me knowing that the only team on this side of the board with a San Francisco 49er is the team with Christian McCaffrey in the 8 slot. So with no access to Pearsall and oftentimes Ayuk falling to the 9th round, I think we will have a shot at Brock Purdy falling to us at 106. I was hoping that could happen with the Pearsall pick at this side of the board. It's more likely we get a discounted price on Purdy. So generally, being at pick 10, you're not going to get the Purdy value in the 9th round, but there's only one team I got to worry about taking him stacked up. Let's take that risk. I would love to see Purdy available there in the ADP at 106. So with these next 2 picks, I'm not going to grab quarterback. Our only options really are like Mahomes and Baker at ADP, and we don't have a stacking option, so that's not ideal in the first place. But Egbuka goes 74. Egbuka is like officially an early 7th round pick, and I'm kind of liking it. I think Egbuka could be really valuable this year, but Shamrock agrees on Geno, looking like a strong candidate. His ADP is just a little too cheap. Like, people get desperate, and there's a big run on quarterback in like the 13th round, but the tier that those players go in extends all the way to Darnold, I think. And because those guys go like a round or 2 cheaper, they feel really, really valuable overall. But we are back on the clock here, and the top of ADP has Pacheco falling to pick 82. We took Pacheco in the last draft. I think he's a good pick. I will grab Pacheco. Even though Shakir is tempting, I'll grab Pacheco, because I think Pacheco is going to have the most volume in the early season, and then if he keeps his job, it'll just maintain, and he's a great pick. But paired up with the 2 rookies, I am going to need someone to kind of play well early season to maybe cover the Ramondre Stevenson games in New England. So Pacheco there at a value feels really nice. Josh Downs off the board. I would like to draft Josh Downs, but it looks like Shakir is falling. I would take him here if he falls another spot. I think he's clearly the best pick at receiver, but what is this team going to do? They passed on him for Josh Downs. They might pass again. They go Darnell Mooney. This is fantastic. We get a really good price on Shakir. We get the 2 players at the top of ADP once again. Like, this is insane. At the 1-2 turn, I got Puka and Neighbors. That never happens. Then I got Hampton and Kittle. Those weren't discounts, but then I took Travion and got Juwan Jennings at a decent discount. Now I get Pacheco, 7 picks past ADP, followed by Khalil Shakir, 8 picks past ADP. I'm liking this team a lot. I think this team is really strong with the elite wide receiver combo of Puka and Neighbors, the elite tight end with George Kittle, some good wide receiver depth with Juwan and Shakir, and then a pretty solid running back room so far with Hampton, Travion Henderson, and Pacheco. I like this team a lot, actually. We still got stacking options available. The only one unavailable would be Josh Allen with Shakir. And then I think Mahomes just went off the board, so he's not going to be stacked up with Pacheco. But that's not something I'm dying to stack up in the first place. So with Kittle on the team, I'm probably going to pass on tight end at the next turn. I think I need another receiver, and then I should probably grab a quarterback. I think getting in at those positions before it completely dries up is wise. And I'm hoping I can get like Trey Harris and then maybe reach on Justin Herbert at the next turn. I think that'd be pretty good. Shamrock is asking, do you think Darnold could start all 17 games? As long as he staves off Jalen Milroe, then yeah, I would expect him to stay healthy and be the starter all season. Milroe is really interesting for fantasy, but I think in real life football, the team's not going to be as good with Milroe. Darnold looked okay when he was even playing for the Niners 2 seasons ago. So I trust Darnold enough to be like viable. Like I don't see a big gap between him and Geno Smith at this point in their career. He's more mobile. He does run the ball just a little bit. So I don't think he's going to throw for 4,000 yards again and 35 touchdowns. But if you're telling me Darnold gives you like 3,600 yards and 25 touchdowns, I think that'd be fine. And it may crack 4,000. He might not fall off very much at all in that offense. But it's a new system entirely with Clint Kubiak. He was familiar with it, however, in San Francisco 2 years ago. They were teammates. But Brock Purdy is here, even though Michael Pittman has fallen. I know that team with Ricky Pearsall is a possible snipe candidate. I'm going to take the gift here. I was really hoping it would happen. We get the Purdy stack. I'm in great shape here. Purdy falls 4 spots. We have him with Kittle and Juwan Jennings. I think that's the most valuable combo that doesn't include Christian McCaffrey. I think the most valuable for sure is CMC Kittle with Purdy, but I'd rather have Juwan Jennings than any other receiver in San Francisco heading into the season. Ayuk, I think, is really interesting for like the fantasy playoffs, but obviously going to miss a lot of time. And then Pearsall, going to be a little too up and down. I don't think he'll overtake Juwan this season. But do I grab another quarterback? And it's kind of tempting to go with Drake May. I don't have a Bear, so I'm not going to take Caleb Williams. Not in love with the running back values here. I'm kind of tempted to go with Scadaboo, but I'm going to take Drake May, a quarterback you don't have to stack. And of course, he's got the same bye as Brock Purdy. It wouldn't be a fun draft without that. It wouldn't be a nice and blunt draft without the double bye. So probably going to have to take a third. But Brock Purdy, Drake May feels like high upside options. A lot of top 10 performances from those two. And Drake May has the rushing value where you don't have to stack him up, but stacking him up with TreVeyon Henderson, I think, is a viable strategy. Henderson looks like a really good pass catcher. Strong skill set there as a prospect. And let's pull up his player profiler page real quick. Best comp is Reggie Bush. Like, isn't that kind of all you need to know? The best comp is Reggie Bush. Sign me up here. But he ran a 4.43 at 5'10", 202 pounds. He's got enough size where I'm not worried about any durability concerns. He was drafted with the 6th pick of the 2nd round. So they like him. I think he could have been a first rounder, if not for some injury concern. As a sophomore and junior, he did not play a full season. He only played 8 games in his 2nd year in college, and then only 10 games in his 3rd season. But he came back to Ohio State in his senior year. They won a championship alongside Quinshon Judkins. And his breakout season was as a freshman. His best college season was in 2021. He had 184 rush attempts, his career high, for 1,255 rushing yards. That's 6.8 yards per carry. Any running back that eclipses 6 yards per carry is doing it well. If you approach 7, you're entering the high end of the status. But 19 total touchdowns as a freshman in college. That's fantastic, with 27 catches as a freshman, another 27 catches last year, 312 receiving yards as a freshman at the age of 19. If it wasn't for injury, I think he would have been the RB1 in the draft class 2 seasons ago. He just wasn't, quite ready to declare for the draft. So love TreVeyon Henderson. I'm not a believer in Ramondre at all. I think TreVeyon's going to be fantastic, and he's a good enough pass catcher where you can stack him up with Drake May and feel good about it. So that is why I wanted Drake May. I think a really valuable quarterback in round 10. And knowing we were at the end of round 11, I didn't expect like guys like Herbert or some other stacking options to fall to us. However, at the top of ADP, maybe there is someone of value. No, that is not the case. We'd be like kind of reaching on Trevor Lawrence though. So I'll grab a third quarterback. It's not the end of the world. We got Purdy and Drake May. That's pretty good at QB. But Jake Ferguson goes. That's pretty interesting. It leaves Tyjae Spears at the top of ADP. And with Travion, I'm already betting against Ramondre. I'm not even considering Ramondre, in all honesty. But I am kind of falling behind at receiver. With Puka and Neighbors, though, at the top, I kind of have that luxury available to me. So I'm going to take the value on Tyjae Spears. I think a potential RB1 in his offense. I would not be surprised at all if he overtook Tony Pollard. And at 28 years old, Pollard might miss a substantial amount of time if he gets hurt. Pollard is an injury risk this season. Tyjae put up over 100 yards in the only game Pollard missed last year. Without a touchdown, he put up double-digit fantasy points. So I like Tyjae a lot. Cobra saying bye week alert. We can't draft Bryce Young or Russell Wilson / Jackson Dart. So good to know. We do have Neighbors, and that was a potential option. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the schedule and see what the quarterback matchups are in week 14 and then decide on that. If there's a stack, that'd be nice, but it's not what I'm like targeting at all on this team. But I think I luck out here. I think Christian Kirk falling 10 spots is a bit of a gift. It's kind of tempting to go Quentin Johnston in all honesty, but I got Kittle. I don't need tight end. I got 4 running backs already. I only have 4 receivers. Let's go Christian Kirk. The ADP value in round 12. And although it's kind of crowded there is going to be some value at receiver in Houston. And if I'm wrong about Jaden Higgins, it's because Christian Kirk is going to be more involved than he is. So while he's not one of my favorite picks, he falls 10 spots. I'll take the discount. And there aren't that many receivers left on the board that I'm willing to tolerate. I need receiver points. That's kind of the only motivation for taking Christian Kirk. But like I mentioned, I'm going to take a look at the NFL schedule. We have a double bye in week 14. So let's see what the matchups are and see if there's one we want to target for our third quarterback. So like Albie said, the byes in week 14 are New England, the Giants, the Niners, and the Panthers. So we can't draft Bryce Young or Jackson Dart. I'm never even considering Russell Wilson, but Dak and Goff are off the board. The Darnold matchup is against the Falcons. Falcons against Seattle. That's kind of interesting. Cam Ward at Cleveland. That might be a really good game for Cam Ward. I'm very tempted to draft Cam Ward, knowing that. But then there's no quarterbacks available in Chicago, Green Bay. Commanders, Minnesota, unavailable either. Miami and New York. Maybe Tua's kind of interesting. But in December, now I'll pass on Tua at that time of year. The Saints at Tampa, not ideal. The Colts at Jacksonville. Maybe Daniel Jones is interesting. But then there's Aaron Rodgers at Baltimore. I'll pass on that. Geno against Denver. I'll pass on that. Really tough secondary. And then Stafford at Arizona. That's not bad. That looks kind of good. And then the only other option, they've all been drafted. So I'll keep that in mind. But I'll be saying shh. I won't reveal exactly who I'm targeting, but I will keep it in mind. And with that in mind, the team after us only has one quarterback. The guy I want is going to be Stafford here with Puka. His bye is in week 8. He's active. We got Puka. It's definitely warranted. And then this also opens me up for a Terrence Ferguson selection at the end of this draft. And that's a good combination, I think, to have. The tight end stacked up. Kittle's a stud, going to be in our lineup constantly. And then if Ferguson is good, he has the upside to be a top 10 option at the position. So a dart throw flyer like Ferguson allows me some freedom. I think I'm only drafting 5 running backs on this team. And then the rest of the picks, other than Ferguson, are going to be receivers. No doubt about it. But Gladius Lion on the clock. Goes with Leggett and leaves us a really good running back. I'm going to be pretty happy to take Tyler Algier, but maybe I don't take him. Maybe we go Demario Douglas. There are some really positive camp reports on Demario Douglas. I think he's a better pick than Kyle Williams. I'm going to take him. All the camp reports I've seen about the wide receiver rotation in New England is that Diggs looks really good. Diggs is impressing coming off the injury. And then Demario Douglas is the wide receiver too, staying on the field most of the time alongside Diggs, and especially in 2 wide receiver sets, he has the edge on anybody else for the snap share. So Demario, I think, is the wide receiver 2 in New England. And then wide receiver 3, it's possibly going to be Kyle Williams by the end of training camp, but I've seen they're giving Kayshon Boutte every opportunity possible to be the wide receiver 3. Kayshon Boutte is getting a lot of reps in 11 personnel ahead of Kyle Williams. So the rookie is far behind, and the player I think I trust most based on ADP other than Diggs would be Demario Douglas and Hunter Henry in this 14th round. I think those are my favorite stacking options with Drake May. And I'm planning to punt tight end for a while, so we'll leave Hunter Henry on the board. Who knows? I might get Hunter Henry in round 15. So Demario as my wide receiver 6. I know I'm drafting at least 8. And then we have, 4 rounds left. We need 1 running back, 1 tight end, 2 receivers. We will have 8 receivers total. But it was really tempting to take Tyler Algier. I think Algier at pick 159, he goes 162. Anywhere in the 14th round is a steal. Algier is a really valuable handcuff running back. As high of an upside as like Charbonnet. The only thing is Bijan at 23 years old is probably not going to get hurt. And that does cap the upside and the access to your lineup. So I actually prefer Algier as a pick, as like a handcuff to Bijan. I actually think that's a really good strategy if you go anchor RB with Bijan. But anywhere in the 13th round, I'm happy to take Algier. If he falls to the 14th, I think he's an excellent pick. I just pass because I punted receiver for a bit too long there. But Henry goes 172. We're not going to get the double stack with Drake May. Wasn't expecting it. And at the top of ADP, we do see Brenton Strange and Mike Gesicki. But I think I'm going to pass on that. I'm not dying to take it. I don't feel desperate for it. But at running back, I think I might go... Nah, I'm going to pair up Brashard Smith with Pacheco. And I really think if Pacheco doesn't work out, the player you want behind him is Brashard Smith. I may have reached on him a little bit. I should have probably taken him in round 16, not round 15. But there's only 4 picks between this and my next one, and I wasn't really sure who I wanted at receiver in the first place. So knowing I needed a running back there, I'm just going to take the guy I'm like pretty confident I actually want. The final 4 rounds, I don't give a fuck about ADP. Like if you get a good discount, go ahead and take it. But I have no concern reaching on a player at this stage of the game. Kind of want to go Wandale with a slight injury risk on Neighbors. But the thing about the Giants passing game, the player who was most productive when Neighbors ever missed time was actually Darius Slayton. Darius Slayton in 2 games when Neighbors was off the field averaged 11 targets per game, and as a downfield threat has way more upside than Wandale ever does. Like Wandale can have another 140 targets this season and still never crack your lineup with more than like 11 points. Like last year's stat line is like insanely unimpressive. He had 93 catches and less than 700 yards, only 3 touchdowns. Did Wandale Robinson. So if Wandale cracks your best ball lineup, other than like the one fluke game when he scores 2 touchdowns and has like 18 points, he's almost never giving you more than like 9 points in fantasy. Like if you have Wandale, you're not having a difference maker on your roster. And if we look at the numbers for Darius Slayton, this is why in best ball I'm going to draft him ahead of Wandale Robinson. Let me pull it up. Let's take a look at the game log last season. And there were 2 weeks when Neighbors had a concussion. So Slayton was in the starting lineup in these 2 games. This is the game log. 11 targets, 8 catches, 122 yards, and a touchdown. And then the next week against the Bengals, 11 targets once again, 6 catches for 57. So didn't have the elite upside, but still, he's the deep threat. His yards per reception are way, way higher than Wandale. Like last year, Slayton averaged 15 yards per catch almost, 14.7. Wandale averaged less than like 9. Wandale was like 8 yards per catch. That's why I don't want him in best ball. I'd much rather have Slayton, who has access to 100-yard games. So if we need an insurance policy for Neighbors right now, I will go with Slayton over Wandale Robinson. In redraft, I would not do that. In season long, when you actually have to make the decision to start the player, I would rather take Wandale Robinson for the floor. In your lineup, you know, if all you need is 8 points, he'll have the target share to maybe get you there. But I'm not gonna go with that in best ball. We need upside and upside alone. But with my final pick, my final 2 picks, I need 1 tight end. I only have George Kittle at this point. And then I also need another receiver. I'm rolling with Puka, Neighbors, Juwan Jennings, Khalil Shakir, Christian Kirk, Demario Douglas, and Darius Slayton. But here I am on the clock. And I already mentioned earlier in the draft, I know exactly where I'm going at tight end. So I'm just going to get ahead of that, prevent any snipage. And if Terrence Ferguson does beat out Tyler Higbee, he has tremendous upside in this offense. We got Stafford. We got the stack that's warranted. I think this team is really good. I'll draft my final receiver and then fill you in on the full roster. But I'm interested in Tutu Atwell here. I'm also interested in Demarcus Robinson technically, and maybe even Kayshon Boutte. But if I'm not going to go with Tutu Atwell, I think I'd go with Roman Wilson. In line to be the number 2 receiver so far in camp. And I'd rather go Roman Wilson than Calvin Austin. I'm going to take Roman Wilson. I'm going to trust the early camp reports and assume that he is the wide receiver 2 in Pittsburgh. He has much higher draft capital than Calvin Austin. So I think they want to see what they have with Roman Wilson. I think he's more talented. So give me Roman Wilson here. This is the final team. I'll pull up the draft board while we talk about it and showcase the roster. We had pick 10, and we started off with Puka and Malik Neighbors. What an elite start. I feel so happy with the price drop on Malik Neighbors. He did suffer a minor injury today, but not going to worry about it at all. Then we feel the luxury of moving off the receiver position. We go Omarion Hampton, George Kittle, Travion Henderson in the next 3 rounds, then dip back in with Jawan Jennings and get a good value on Isaiah Pacheco. We get a phenomenal value on Khalil Shakir. I'd much rather have Shakir than Darnell Mooney, given the recent shoulder injury. But then Brock Purdy falls to us for the stack at 106, late round 9. I'll scoop that up all day. Sorry, I got cotton mouth. I'm fucking tripping over my words, man. Okay, let's lock in. We go Brock Purdy, then take Drake May. We grab Tyjae Spears at a discount and Christian Kirk at a discount. I grab Stafford for the QB3 paired up with Puka. We go Demario Douglas for the Drake May stack. Brashard Smith as a hedge against Pacheco. And then Darius Slayton as an insurance policy if Neighbors misses any time. I prefer his ceiling over Wandale. And then Terrace Ferguson to stack up with Stafford as our tight end 2, and Roman Wilson with a dart throw prayer. He is the number 2 wide receiver in Pittsburgh for Aaron Rodgers. Might have some value on the Steelers. So I like this team a lot, actually. I think it worked out really well. But we are drafting with no one. I forget. There's no one in this draft lobby with us that let us know. So no need to take a look at anyone's roster. We will move on and draft our final team of the live stream. If you've made it with me this far, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you've also enjoyed the content, go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well. Please subscribe to the channel if you're new. It really helps with growth. And as we are a couple days away from August, you know the content is going to be ramped up by a significant amount. I've mentioned that it's July 29th and it's time to get back into gear for the season. But this will be the last draft. If you want to draft with me, go ahead and hit that button right now in the Chihuahua. I'm on a 7-second delay, so I'll hit it right now. And hopefully we do get paired up. There's one spot left. If you want it, come claim it. It is now taken. So the lobby's full. If you want to draft with us, you'll have to wait till next time. And our next live stream will be on Friday, most likely. I think it's going to be on Friday. It depends on how quickly the Husky fills. I plan to do a Husky on our next live stream, and that's a $40 entry. So sometimes those go much slower than you might think, but there's only 11,000 spots in that one. So I'll keep an eye on that one. If that one's about to fill early tomorrow, then I might do a single live stream draft for the Husky. I want to put the Husky on the live stream. I like the payout structure of that tournament a lot. But today we're in the Chihuahua. You can do 10 Chihuahuas for the price of a Husky. Let's get our Chihuahuas in while we can. But I don't expect to do more than one Husky. I'd rather do like 2 more Best Ball Manias than draft a second Husky. But I do want one Husky, that's for sure. We go with Jamar Chase. We get the 101, so that's an obvious pick. And then, just because I have some time, I'm going to pull up the Husky payout structure. Because I want to let y'all know. If you only want to do like one entry in this tournament, I think it is a decent investment. So the Husky dropped today, and it's a $40 entry, but it's a small tournament, only 11,000 entrants, and the first place prize is $50,000. So the prize pool is pretty strong, given there's only 11,000 other people you have to beat. I feel kind of decent about it. And one of the reasons why I like it a lot is because in the first round in the weeks 1 through 14, you don't have to finish top 2. You can finish third and still advance. That extra advancement spot, I think, is really, really valuable. Gives you a little bit more wiggle room and room for error. So I love that. As part of the Husky, the advancement rate in the first round is not 16%, it's 25%. And then in round 2, it's also 25% once again. It's 2 out of 8 in week 15. But week 16 is 1 out of 6. That's not bad. That's the rate we're trying to get in the regular season, typically. So in general, this is one of the highest advance rates you can find on Underdog. I like it a lot. The final's 117 people, and if you do make the final, you do make $400. That's not bad. If you make it to just the top 40, you make $1,000, and then obviously top 6 is 10K, first prize is 50K. The Husky feels worth it getting in at least one if you feel confident in your draft ability, but we'll do that on the next one. We're not going to do that today. Back to the board. Let's see how round 1 did shake out. We had Jamar Chase with our pick, then Bijan, CeeDee Lamb, Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon Barkley, Jefferson, Nico Collins, CMC, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Puka Nacua at 10, just like us in the last draft. That's kind of interesting. Maybe the Stafford injury is a minor red flag. But then Brian Thomas at 11, A-Chain, Derrick Henry, Neighbors in round 2 again, and then Ashton Genty, Drake London. So if the price on Neighbors is officially in round 2, Neighbors is going to become one of my most drafted players. I'm not going to panic on his injury. I doubt it. While he might be at the bottom of the tier now, I'm not going to rank him in the following tier. I'd still rather have Neighbors than Drake London and A.J. Brown. As of today, if we give it another 3 weeks and Neighbors has yet to practice, then maybe I'll change my opinion. But I think Neighbors is going to be fine. But Chase Brown went pick 19. That's interesting. At the top of ADP, we do have Bucky Irving, so I will grab Bucky. It's pretty hard to have like any uniqueness when you have Jamar at the 101. It's often like a very common set of picks, but I'll take Bucky for sure. And then I have a lot of Jamar Chase, Josh Jacobs teams. I'm going to go with T. Higgins, and maybe we'll set ourselves up for the Joe Burrow stack later on. Whoops. Albie did miss our lobby this time around. Sorry to hear that, man. And then Cobra is asking, if a playoff round has 1 out of 6 advancement, do they randomly assign 6 teams to a pod and 1 advances, or does just the top 16.67% scoring teams advance to the next round? That's a good question, and I wish it was just the top 16.7% straight up advancing, but no, it's a 6-team pod assigned randomly, and if you get the best scorer and you're still like really elite, if you miss out by 1 point, you do not advance in round 16. There is kind of some luck of the pod in how Underdog shakes out. Part of it is who you're playing against, because you can have the highest scoring team in one pod and not advance because you're in a different pod and finish like 3rd because it's just way more competitive in that scenario. Yeah, you can get really unlucky with the pod structure, but it's the first place in that 6-team pod in week 16. But in week 15, it's top 2 out of 8. And then in the regular season, weeks 1 through 14, to finish top 3 in advance is really nice. So if you guys want to save your Husky for the live stream, that is what I'm going to do next time I'm on the channel. On either Thursday or Friday. It depends on how fast that Husky tournament does fill. But after our pick, not that many receivers go off in this round. We see Garrett Wilson at 26, Josh Jacobs 27, Marvin Harrison 28, followed by Allen, JSN, Lamar Jackson, and Devontae Adams. And then a run on running back with Breece Hall, George Kittle, Hampton, and Kyron Williams. Mike Evans, Jaden Daniels, and now Jalen Hurts to an unstacked team at pick 10. So no one is stacking up Hurts in this lobby. Terry still on the board, continues to fall. And someone took Kenneth Walker above Terry McLaurin. That's really interesting. Chuba off the board. Wow, what are they that concerned about Terry, or am I just missing something? I know he's got the ankle injury, but now he's holding in. He did report to camp. Terry finally goes at pick 44. That team with Josh Allen, 29, gets a gift there with Terry. That's a good pick. But technically, I have him in the same tier as some other players who have still yet to be taken. So maybe not. Tet McMillan off the board. Xavier Worthy off the board. And running back really dried up quickly. I would really have to reach at running back in order to take one. Those picks on Walker and Chuba were really interesting. Pickens goes, so I'll just take the discount on DJ Moore. I got 2 picks here. I'm not going to fiddle with it too much. I think grabbing DJ Moore is a wise investment. 5 picks past ADP. So we'll let the timer expire with DJ Moore. And then, damn, I kind of want to go with running back here, honestly. But to reach on anyone at this price tag doesn't feel super wise. Instead, I'm just going to take the highest ranked player and take Jamison Williams. Technically, I have Sutton ranked higher, so I probably shouldn't have said that. But in best ball, my rankings are different. And I think JMO is a bit more interesting in best ball than redraft. In redraft, I want a steady player in my lineup every week I know is not going to burn me. And that is Cortland Sutton in redraft. However, in best ball, JMO is going to have more 25-point games just because he's a better deep threat than Sutton is. So he's a better option in best ball, in my opinion. The volatility, I think, is more ideal in best ball because then it opens up more weeks when he's not in the lineup and it has some other player offering the floor. So when DJ Moore scores 12 points and Sutton scores 13, we may not get the contribution from DJ Moore, but when JMO scores 5 points and DJ Moore scores 12, we will have that floor available to us. It's kind of a weird, equation, but in best ball, I prefer JMO than Sutton. So big run at receiver. This tier is extremely flat. And because there was such a high reach on Kenneth Walker and Chuba Hubbard, that's why none of them go at this turn to kind of mix it up. But that team with Kenneth Walker went rainbow strategy, and they're paying the price. Taking Kamara here with Kenneth Walker at pick 42. That's a big reason why I don't like taking Brock Bowers in the second round. And if I do take Bowers, there is no way I'm following that up with Lamar Jackson in round 3. I might take a good quarterback, but I'm not going to take one in the third round when I go Bowers in round 2. I don't like this strategy very much from Team 7, but it might work out. There might still be some good receiver value left on the board. I think they have to hammer that position in the next 3 rounds and then still kind of finish up with strong depth. Team 7 is taking a risky approach here. But Cobra points out 11 wide receivers in a row. And I think I get 2 of the best ones. But in general, all the receivers that went in that run there are really valuable. So Burrow goes at pick 60. That team only has 1 receiver. So even though they're taking him unstacked, for the sake of the competition in this lobby, I don't hate it. Go ahead and take Burrow unstacked. That's fine. I think that team kind of needed more of a wide receiver approach with the trip running back start. I'm tripping over my words. It's the Cottonmouth. Let's make it worse though. Let's have a little smoke break. And in typical stoner fashion, I did forget our newly established tradition of trying to smoke at the 402. We smoke at pick 66 instead. So here's the roster. We're rolling with an anchor running back approach so far. We have Bucky Irving with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, DJ Moore, and Jamison Williams. So the wide receiver room is very strong. I can move off that position for a while now. It's just a matter of trying to get some good values. I'm hoping there's still some good options left to me at this next pick, but I could see these next 3 picks all being running backs, and I think I might get screwed just a little bit. Let's show you the top of ADP. Currently, Addison is falling, but Dave Montgomery goes. And this team goes Stephon Diggs. So I really luck out here. I thought they were going to go Swift. I will happily take Swift. And then I should probably take the falling value on Addison, especially with the hamstring injury to Jefferson. There's a world where he really works out. And if I didn't have Jamison Williams, I don't think I would, but I do have Jamison Williams, so I will. I'll take Jordan Addison here for the upside. But I was really tempted to go with Emeka Egbuka at that pick. Egbuka's been moving up the board, and we have 22 picks before our next selection. I kind of wanted to take Egbuka and then hope that Baker Mayfield would be available at the next turn and be able to grab Baker with the double stack of Bucky and Egbuka. Baker is raving about Egbuka. Baker has nothing but positives to say about the rookie Egbuka. And we have no idea when Chris Godwin will be healthy, so we might get Egbuka at worst as the wide receiver 2 for like 6-8 weeks. And then when Godwin comes back, I'm not convinced that Godwin's going to like immediately overtake him. And then there's also the factor that Mike Evans is 32 years old this season and could miss time. He missed 3 games last year. So I think there will be like a handful of games where Egbuka is actually the wide receiver 1 in the offense, assuming Evans is off the field. But who knows? Maybe by the end of the season, if Godwin's not the same player and Evans falls off a little bit, maybe Egbuka's that good. He was drafted in the first round for a reason, and I'm not convinced we should be drafting Golden ahead of him. I wanted Egbuka to go to the Seahawks, but they went Gray Zabel and address the offensive line instead. That was probably a wise decision. Gray Zabel is a good O-line piece, can be kind of plugged in anywhere, and they've had a bad O-line for a while. I don't blame them, but to pass on JSN may have been unwise. Sorry, to pass on Egbuka to pair with JSN may have been unwise. They don't need 3 slot receivers, though. Egbuka is a slot receiver. So is Cooper Kupp. And JSN is mainly a slot receiver. But interesting, this team with Burrow and only 2 wide receivers goes with Mahomes and Kyler Murray. And those were not auto picks. They chose them kind of quickly. I do not understand the strategy from Team 12. All unstacked. 3 quarterbacks in the top 7. Not what I would do. But Egbuka did go 2 picks after me at 75, so to take him there would have been justified. It's just the price discount on Addison was too tempting to pass on. But after I go Addison, we see Pacheco off the board, then Egbuka, Laporta, Khalil Shakir, Pearsall, Pollard, Ingram. Oh, Ingram went super high in this draft as well. Pick 80. You don't see that. That's strange. Golden, Jaden Reed, Josh Downs, Mahomes, Kyler, TJ Hawkinson, Brian Robinson, Jaden Higgins, Aaron Jones. This is a weird lobby. Andrews goes pick 90 as well. I mean, likely did just get hurt, but still, that's a round and a half reach on Andrews. What's going on? What's going on? Addison, Godwin off the board at 92. Tyrone Tracy off the board. Jalen Warren. I have 5 receivers. I'm not taking a receiver at this pick. That is for sure. I will go Baker Mayfield, even though we don't have Egbuka. What happened at quarterback is notable, and I expect a big run on the position given that team at 12 has already taken 3. So give me a good quarterback. There is the correlation with Bucky. It's not an insane pick. And then I can always backstack with Jalen McMillan and Kate Otten if I really want to. But this is a weird spot to be in. And I think I'm going to go Kelsey. There's also some weird shit going on at the tight end position. And I'm going to grab Kelsey because Ingram and Andrews are already off the board. So a weird lobby. We want to make note of that and try and get ahead of some odd picks. I think there's going to be a big run at quarterback because of the Burrow, Mahomes, Kyler team. That's going to be weird the rest of the way. So let's get ahead of that run at the position and grab Baker. Although I kind of wish I had Egbuka now. But Fields goes off, Bo Nix goes off, Trey Harris, Keon Coleman, Dak Prescott, Rashad Bateman. And that's good for me. I'd love to see a big run on quarterback and wide receiver in these next 2 rounds. If we can get some falling values at running back and tight end, that'd be pretty nice. Because my receiver room is not something I need to be addressing very much the rest of the draft. I got Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, DJ Moore, Jamison Williams, and Jordan Addison. I'm living at receiver. Mooney falls to 106. Pittman still on the board. So this lobby is reaching on their guys, not giving a shit half the time, but also really giving a shit based on recent injury reports. Oh no, Pittman has been taken. Pittman went 95. Excuse me. But ETN off the board at 108. Ayuk off the board at 109. That team is desperate for receiver production. But they can't pass up on the falling ETN price. I don't think Team 12 is going to be that competitive in this draft. Like, obviously, quarterback's loaded and so is running back, but receiver super thin, and you can only start a maximum of 3 running backs. Going to be weird how Team 12 pans out. But, oh wow, Cooper Kupp fell to 113. That's insane. I didn't even notice Cooper Kupp wasn't off the board. Damn. Tyler Warren off the board, a player I think moves up in value based off camp reports early on. He has a really good connection with Anthony Richardson, and Michael Pittman just got hurt, so Tyler Warren, first round pick. Probably a much more trustworthy option these days. I would have considered him for sure, but not dying to take him. Bryce Young off the board, 117. What the fuck is going on? That team must have left the lobby and had him queued up. That's the only explanation I can think of. But kind of crazy that Purdy has fallen to 118 and Bryce Young goes off the board. Like, the fuck is happening? Herbert gets taken. Tyjae Spears gets taken. So even though I have JMO and that might warrant a Jared Goff pick, I think I'm just going to take the player I think outscores him and has fallen dramatically. I'm going to take Brock Purdy. Such a weird lobby. And then I'm also going to take the falling value of Quinshon Judkins. ADP of 105. We get him 121. Yeah, there's a lot of risk, but I need running back production. And if he does get on the field, he's really talented. So I think it's an obvious double tap here with Purdy and Judkins at the top of ADP. They're going in the top 105, and we're picking 120 and 121, and they're still on the board. I think I have to take both of them. I think that's the obvious direction here. So the team looks pretty good. I got Baker and Purdy. So technically I can stop at 2 quarterbacks. I got Bucky, DeAndre Swift, and Judkins. Potential clutch pick on Judkins. Also a potential league loser. I'm probably going to draft 6 running backs, though, on this team. And then at receiver, we're fucking stacked with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, DJ Moore, Jamison Williams, and Jordan Addison. And then tight end is Travis Kelce. I'll probably opt for 3 tight ends. So 3, 7. This will be a 2-6-7-3 build. 2 QBs. I'm going to stop with Baker and Purdy. Need 3 more running backs, 2 more receivers, and 2 more tight ends. We have 6 picks left. No, 7 picks left. All right. After Judkins, we get Christian Kirk, David Njoku, Jared Goff, Ramondre, Trevor Lawrence, Quentin Johnston. Is Quentin Johnston like officially a round 11 pick? This is the second time in this live stream we've seen him go at pick 127. He's been moving up the board. Colston Loveland then with the team that has Caleb Williams. Not a bad pick. CJ Stroud, Ray Davis. Luther Burden falls to 131. And then Marvin Mims to the team at 12. They also take Dallas Goedert, their first tight end. Charbonnet 134, though, might be a steal. I mean, it is a steal. Might be a league-winning pick. Damn, 2-round discount on Charbonnet. That's pretty nice. Then Stafford at 135, a reach on Stafford. Ferguson, Javonte Williams, Kyle Williams at 138. Dylan Sampson, 139. But let's take a look at the top of ADP. We got some decent running back options. I'll get at least one of this group of 4 here. That's for sure. If Najee's there, I'll take Najee, but any of them kind of feel like good picks. We do get sniped on Likely and Kincaid, though. I wanted a tight end here, and it's not really tempting to take Kyle Pitts, though. But might be forced into it. I'm not going to take Hollywood Brown. We see Penix go. So at least I'm saved from a Penix Kyle Pitts stack. Absolutely going to take Najee. He's fallen another 10 picks here. I think at some point he'll get on the field. And then even though we have Bucky Irving, we're kind of thin at running back in the first place. We need Bucky to work out. So if he doesn't, I'm happy to have the insurance policy of Rachaad White. And it also offers me a stacking option with Baker Mayfield. Rachaad White is a heavy pass catcher. And I know I'm drafting 6 running backs on this team. So we got The Tampa Bay backfield all locked up with Bucky Irving and Rashad White. That's pretty nice. We also have DeAndre Swift and Quinshon Judkins, some high upside options when they're healthy. And then maybe Najee Harris doesn't do jack shit, but at some point he will recover from that fireworks injury, and at some point he will figure things out. But Albie saying no more week 9 running backs, please. I'm not worried. I have 3 week 9 buys at running back, but I also have Swift and Najee. I think I'll be okay in week 9. But maybe as a tiebreaker, I won't draft another week 9 buy. So quickly, I think our running back room caught up to speed. Our receiver room is clearly the best of them all. In this lobby, I can't think there's anyone with a better receiver room than I have. But there's still 5 picks left, no sense of urgency to get back on that position. We will just scoop up value and try and grab at least one tight end here. We didn't have a good value at the last turn, so the plan is still in place. Need to catch up a tight end and draft 3 of them. When I only have Kelsey, I'm seeking some upside with other options. It would have been nice to have a stacking option with Purdy, but it's pretty shocking that every team that does have a stacking option with Purdy passed not once, but twice. You know, like I'm the last pick of round 10, and often Purdy is like the first pick of the 9th round. So that's kind of crazy. The team with Christian McCaffrey got such a good value on Cooper Kupp. That's the reason why they passed. So at least they have an excuse. The team with Kittle has Jalen Hurts. I guess they didn't want to overload. And then the team with Juwan Jennings has Lamar Jackson, J.J. McCarthy. They went J.J. McCarthy instead, unstacked. What the fuck? Team 7. I don't understand. And then the team with Ricky Pearsall, where are they? They're right behind them. They went with Tyler Warren instead. And they also stacked up Dak Prescott. They did not stack up Dak Prescott. Wow, really interesting. I lucked out. Okay, we're on the clock in about 4 picks. So let's take a look at ADP. Right now, Tillman is the top option. He's currently falling about 16 slots. I doubt he falls to me, but I would take him if he's there. We're already invested in Cleveland a little bit, so Pop Douglas goes off before him. Is there any news blurb on Cedric Tillman? No. So just falling because people don't like him. Joey Chrysler on the clock. They go Hunter Henry. So this team, Browns Bucks, has 6 receivers. I think they might pass for a running back here. And if that's the case, I know exactly who I'm taking with one of these picks. They go Braylon Allen. Wow, we get a good discount again on Cedric Tillman. But if we want a discount on anyone else, it would be Jalen Wright or Austin Eckler. I'd rather go Jalen Wright than Eckler. Also a Week 17 bringback with the Bucks. But I think this next pick has to be correlated in some fashion. And I know I'm drafting 7 receivers, so McMillan could be our last option. He's purely upside, so I think with this receiver room, it does work out. I'm going to pass on Kate Otten. I'm going to go Jalen McMillan. We've got Addison on this team, so a potential suspension early on. Jalen McMillan, if he's more productive, you would assume it's when Godwin is not healthy. So we'll put him on the roster, and maybe that covers some of the weeks when Addison is off the board. But in general, if McMillan ever cracks our lineup, it's because Baker Mayfield had a massive spike week. If Baker can throw a deep touchdown to Jalen McMillan and he's viable in fantasy any given week, then Baker's going to have an elite ceiling in that specific game. So I do kind of like the correlation there of Jalen McMillan and Baker. Captain Spock says tsunami alert here in California, midnight LA area, 12:30 a.m. and the Bay Area, all the way up to the Bay Area. Wow. That's good to know. I will admit I have no concern about a tsunami risk where I live, particularly. I am not on the coastline, and I'm like 20 miles inland, and I'm also like elevated at like 1,000 feet. So I'm okay, but that's not good news. I hope everyone's okay. I hope people near the coastline are going to be all right. Where was the earthquake? Off the coast of Russia. 8.7. Damn. That's a big one. 8.7. I'm going to Google that. Yeah, north of Japan. Huge fucking earthquake. Shit. I hope Hawaii's okay. I'd be a lot more worried about Hawaii than LA. LA, we got the mountain ridge right on the shore, right on the coast. Like, maybe I'm underestimating it, but I think LA is going to be okay. But 8.7's fucking huge. I'd be worried about Hawaii. That would suck. Prayers for Hawaii. We need tight end bad, and Elijah Arroyo actually affordable here, so we'll take Elijah Arroyo. And then running back gets really ugly at this point. Shipley might not be the number 2. Lloyd just got hurt. Giddens is really interesting, but I think if one guy has like a chance to actually be the starter in his offense, it is Brashard Smith. So I will go with Brashard Smith. I'll take that shot. And we do have Travis Kelce, so another investment in the Chiefs. Let's hope for the best. Yeah, prayers for Hawaii and all of the... I mean, even like down to like the Philippines, if you think about it, like, you know, maybe Australia and like Vietnam, coast of China, that's for sure. But damn, that's a huge earthquake. Prayers for Hawaii. Tsunamis. That's kind of scary. But like I said, I live like 1,000 feet elevated from the sea level. I think I'm okay, but in general, upgraded to 8.8, the 6th biggest ever recorded on the planet. Damn. Damn. I remember where I was when the Japan earthquake tsunami happened. I remember exactly where I was. I was in my senior year of high school, and I was at a film convention in Dallas, Texas. Oh no, it happened in my junior year, so it would have happened in Florida. It happened in Orlando. I was at a convention in Orlando, and I remember I came into the editing bay, and there's a TV in our hotel room, the like the main suite where all like the teachers and chaperones were staying, and that was what was on the TV, the tsunami that was going on in Japan. That's the last time we've had a big tsunami, if I can recall. Like that compares to 8.8. That's massive. Yeah. Was I don't remember. I was too young to like be paying attention, but did it do any damage in the Bay Area when the wave did come in? Was that actually like, impacting the coast? It's okay if you don't know, but now I'm curious. Now I want to know. All right, so I mentioned this team was going to be a 2-6-7-3 uh, setup. We already have every pick except tight end. This last pick is definitely a tight end. So remove DJ Giddens from the top of the queue. And players I'm considering. Honestly, I'm even considering Noah Fant. But it looks like Noah Gray was already taken. So I'm going to go Theo Johnson. I'm going to take Theo Johnson. I think in year 2, Theo Johnson has some high potential. So that was my pick. We go with Travis Kelce, the old guy, and then some young guys, Elijah Arroyo and Theo Johnson. So this is the final roster. We have Baker Mayfield, Brock Purdy at QB. We got a phenomenal value on Purdy. And given what happened with Team 12 in the quarterback position, to be able to ignore this big run on quarterback and throughout the rest of the draft and just get a massive value on Purdy, I think is really, really satisfying. That's pretty good. Running back, though, is pretty deep. We got Bucky Irving, DeAndre Swift, Quinshon Judkins at a big value. Hope he plays at all. Najee Harris, also hope he plays at all, but a big value on him at pick 144. And then Rachaad White to pair with Bucky. So given some of the risk involved with Judkins and Najee, having like all of the Tampa Bay backfield touches locked up, I think is a valuable approach. And then Swift can carry us to tolerate the risk of Brashard Smith not panning out at all. That's a nice luxury pick at RB6. But wide receiver is really loaded at the top. We went heavy early on, and Jamar Chase, T. Higgins did not get stacked up, but it's okay. We have DJ Moore, Jamison Williams, Jordan Addison, Cedric Tillman, and Jalen McMillan. McMillan doesn't need to contribute much with the strength of this receiving core. So tight end, we did take 3. We went with Travis Kelce, Elijah Arroyo, and then we also took Theo Johnson with our final pick. And I think this team is pretty interesting. We got so many good values. I think we can compete here. A lot of players fell. This lobby was insane. There was a lot of weird picks and high reaches all over the place. So that's going to be it for this live stream. I hope everyone in the warning zone for that tsunami is okay. And according to the chat, it wrecked a lot of boats in Santa Cruz Harbor and took down a bunch of buildings. Huh? No tsunami? I'm not sure what Reflect the Sun is articulating here, but Captain Spock says, I was 20 miles from the stadium. It was intense. That was game 3. I actually went to the game 1 that year. Very, very interesting. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed. I hope everyone had a good time. I'll see you guys in a couple days, and if you're interested in my top 24 wide receiver rankings, I did post that earlier today, about 3.5 hours ago. Check that out if you're interested. So I'll see you on the next live stream. I'll see you with some more content pretty soon. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.